Rain slithered down the windows of Mill and Hearth, a modest corner diner nestled between a pawnshop and a shuttered bookstore. The red neon sign buzzed faintly, half of the H, flickering like a bad memory. A man stepped out of a rideshare and into the drizzle, pulling his coat tighter. Gray stubble shadowed his jaw, and a knit beanie covered his thinning hair. He paused in front of the diner, eyes tracking the soft glow within. Steam fogged the glass from inside, but he knew the layout by heart. He had designed it himself, 15 years ago when his dreams were louder than the city. No one noticed when he stepped through the door. The scent of grilled onions, fresh sourdough, and cheap cologne greeted him. A teenage hostess barely looked up from her phone. "Table for one?" she asked. He nodded. She motioned lazily. "Corner booths free." He thanked her quietly, his voice carrying the polite weight of someone used to giving orders without needing to raise it. Sliding into the cracked final booth, he took it all in, the worn menu, the familiar hum of jazz, the rhythmic clang from the kitchen. His restaurant. Or at least, it used to feel that way. A waitress in her 20s, tired eyes, bright lipstick, brought a glass of water. "Be with you in a sec," she mumbled, already moving to another table. Her limp was subtle but noticeable. The man didn't open the menu. He knew it by heart. He had written every item once in the back of a spiral notebook, dreaming beside his late wife at 3 a.m. She believed in it more than he had. Two boys, maybe 10 or 11, sat in the booth behind him, sharing fries and whispering between bites. One of them laughed, the kind of quick, scratchy sound boys make when they're trying not to get caught. The man barely registered them until he heard. "My brother worked here," said the manager. Fired him for being 5 minutes late. His hand froze over his water glass. "Yeah," the other boy added. "Mom says the owner's some rich guy who doesn't even care. Probably never set foot in here." The man sat still, breath shallow. He remembered the names of every person he hired in the early days. He remembered fixing leaky sinks himself, covering shifts, making sandwiches at midnight. But somewhere between the franchise contracts and board meetings, the closeness unraveled, and now here he was in his own restaurant, anonymous, overhearing a truth no one dared say to his face. The waitress returned. "Know what you want?" He blinked, then nodded. "How special?" "No onions." She scribbled and left. He didn't want the sandwich. He wanted to rewind the years, shake hands with every employee, ask their stories. He wanted to matter again, not just to investors, but to them. Outside, the rain eased. Inside, the boys whispered on, unaware their words had cracked something open, and the man, nameless in the place he built, listened. The sandwich arrived, limp and over-toasted, a far cry from the crisp perfection he remembered. The fries sagged under grease. The man didn't touch them. Behind him, the boys kept talking, unaware that the ghost of the owner sat a few feet away. "My cousin said the dishwasher slipped last week." No one helped him. Just laughed and said, "Get up or get out." The man's jaw tensed. "That's messed up," the other boy whispered. "He's like 17. He still limps. He's scared to call in sick now." The man turned slightly, not enough to seem odd, just enough to see their reflections in the window. Two boys, one in a school jacket, the other in an oversized hoodie, both with wide eyes and small hands that shouldn't yet know disappointment. He cleared his throat softly. "Sorry," he said, twisting in his seat. "Didn't mean to overhear. You two have family that works here." They glanced at each other, cautious. The older boy nodded. "My brother used to. My mom does now. Night shift." The man smiled gently. "You like the food?" A shrug. "It's okay." He nodded. Honest answer. There was a beat of silence. Then the younger boy asked, "Do you work here?" "Not exactly," the man said. "I used to. Long time ago." "You a manager?" He smiled at the irony. "Something like that." The waitress passed again, balancing a full tray with one hand, her limp more pronounced now. The man's eyes followed her, his smile fading. The kitchen door swung open with a thud. A man in a wrinkled dress shirt stepped out, red-faced and scowling. "Two orders still waiting," he snapped, voice cutting through the diner like a serrated blade. "Why do I have to babysit every shift?" The waitress winced. A cook looked away. The man in the beanie stood. "Excuse me," he said to the boys. "Be right back." He approached the counter calmly, his footsteps silent on the scuffed tiles. The manager, still muttering, didn't notice him until they were nearly face to face. "Problem with the orders?" the man asked. The manager blinked. "Who are you?" "Just a customer," he said. "But I used to work here. Long time ago." The manager snorted. "Yeah? Then you know this place has gone to hell. No one listens, no one cares. Kids don't show up. It's all a mess." The man's eyes held steady. "And whose job is it to listen?" The manager frowned, puzzled. What? The man leaned in slightly. What if the owner was listening? The color drained from the manager's face, but the man smiled faintly, stepped back, and walked away, back at the booth. The boys were watching. One of them whispered, "Who is that guy?" The man picked up his untouched sandwich, then set it back down. He didn't need to eat. He needed to see. To hear. To remember. Outside, the wind picked up, pushing leaves against the window like restless fingers. Something was shifting, and it had only just begun. The booths emptied. Plates clattered into bins. The kitchen dimmed to its tired hum. He asked the hostess, still scrolling, to fetch the manager for a quick word out back. They stood behind the restaurant, next to the dumpsters, the air thick with fryer grease and wet asphalt. The manager lit a cigarette with shaky fingers, the lighter flaring orange. "Look," he started, "if this is about earlier, it is," the man interrupted, voice low but unwavering. "It's also about everything you've let fester under my name." The manager froze. His cigarette burned between two fingers. The man pulled off his beanie. Rain glinted in his silver hair. "I'm the guy who mopped these floors when we couldn't afford a janitor. I'm the guy who taught the first-line cook how to flip a patty without tearing the bun." A long silence. I didn't know, that's the problem." The man stepped closer, not threatening, just solid. "You're not fired. Not tonight. But you're going to walk back in there, and you're going to apologize to every soul on that clock. Then you're going to go home and think hard about whether this job deserves you, or whether they do." The manager swallowed. "Yes, sir." The man held his gaze a beat longer, then turned. Inside, the staff stood still mid-clean. The waitress wiped her hands on her apron. The young cook leaned against the fridge. Even the dishwasher had come out, drying his hands with a stained towel. "I owe all of you an apology," the man said, his voice steady but not rehearsed. "I stepped away from this place thinking I'd built something strong. But I let the walls rot while I chased new ground." No one spoke, but they listened. He nodded toward the boys' empty booth. "Tonight, 2 kids reminded me who this place is for. Not investors. Not expansion. People. You." I shifted. Shoulders relaxed. "I'm reinstating overtime pay, fixing the heater, and setting up a hardship fund in my wife's name. She used to say a restaurant is only as warm as the people who serve it. I forgot that. You reminded me." The waitress wiped a tear quickly, pretending it was nothing. "I'll be back," he said. "Not in a suit. Not for a press event. Just, here." He reached the door, paused, and turned back. "Oh, and shift meals are free again. Starting now." A small, stunned cheer broke the silence. Smiles bloomed. Laughter returned. Outside, he stepped into the clean night air. The rain had stopped. The neon sign buzzed above him, this time, every letter fully lit. He glanced back through the window, watching the staff joke as they cleaned, the way his team once had. He didn't walk away from the restaurant. He walked toward something. Toward beginning again.
The next morning, I wake up to the sound of heavy machinery. A tea first, I think it's roadwork. Then I hear the sharp crack of wood splintering. I'm out of bed in seconds, heart pounding as I throw open my front door and my garden is gone. The sustainable native plants I'd carefully cultivated uprooted. My stone walkway smashed. A group of workers in neon vests shove the last of the debris into a waiting truck. Karen stands at the curb, clipboard in hand, overseeing the destruction like a queen surveying her domain. Rage surges through me, hot and electric. I storm down the steps. "What the hell is this?" Karen turns, all saccharine smiles. "Oh, good morning. I see you got our notice about the unauthorized landscaping." "Unauthorized?" My voice is sharp, disbelief curling at the edges. "There's nothing in the HOA guidelines prohibiting native plants." She sighs, shaking her head as if I'm an unruly child. "Well, technically, the rules don't mention them, but the board determined that they don't align with the community's aesthetic. And since you ignored our requests, we had to take action." I glance at the workers loading the last of my plants into the truck. "You trespassed on my property and destroyed my garden." Her smile doesn't falter. "The HOA has the authority to enforce compliance. You should have read the fine print." My fists clench. "This isn't just about landscaping, this is a message: you don't belong here. You don't get to decide how your own home looks." I take a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "You had no right." Karen tilts her head, mock sympathy in her gaze. "Maybe next time, you'll follow the rules." Then she turns and walks away, humming to herself. That night, I do my research. Karen loves rules. Let's see how well she follows them. I dig into the HOA's bylaws, searching for anything I can use against her. It doesn't take long before I find it. Section 4, Clause 8. Any HOA modifications to a homeowner's property require a formal vote and written approval from the homeowner. There was no vote. No approval. Karen broke the rules, but I don't stop there. I reach out to a few neighbors, the ones who've been too afraid to challenge her. Turns out, I'm not the only one she's targeted. An elderly couple had their wooden fence torn down because it was too rustic. A young black family received a fine for having a non-standard front door. A veteran was threatened with legal action for refusing to repaint his house a dull beige. Patterns, power plays, racial bias dressed up as aesthetic standards. It's all right there in black and white. By the time I'm done, I have a folder of complaints, photos, and legal documentation. Karen thinks she can strong-arm me into submission. She has no idea who she's dealing with. The next morning, I take my folder straight to the HOA meeting. The room is packed, neighbors whispering, exchanging nervous glances. Karen sits at the head of the table, sipping tea, completely at ease. I step forward, placing my folder down with a sharp thud. Before we start, I have a few violations to discuss. Karen's smile tightens. Excuse me? I flip open the folder, my voice calm but firm. According to HOA bylaws, any modification to a homeowner's property requires a formal vote. There was no vote when you had my garden destroyed. Murmurs ripple through the room. I turn a page. And it's not just me. You've been targeting specific homeowners, fining, harassing, even threatening legal action, all while conveniently ignoring the violations of others. I meet her gaze, my words sharp enough to cut. That's called discrimination, and it's illegal. Karen's face pales for the first time. She looks rattled. Good, because this is only the beginning. Karen regains her composure quickly. Too quickly. She leans back in her chair, folding her hands like a benevolent ruler addressing a lowly subject. I appreciate your concerns, she says smoothly. But the HOA board has always acted in the best interest of this community. Your accusations are, frankly, unfounded. I glance around the room. Some neighbors shift uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Others watch Karen like she's the sun and they're afraid to look away too long. She's ruled this place through intimidation for years. That ends today. I flip another page in my folder. Unfounded. I repeat, arching a brow. Then maybe you can explain why you've been selectively enforcing HOA policies? Karen sighs. All regulations apply equally to all homeowners. I smile, but it's the kind that doesn't reach my eyes. That's interesting because I pulled every single violation notice issued in the last 2 years. I turn the folder around, sliding a highlighted spreadsheet across the table. And wouldn't you know it? The only people receiving citations and fines are people of color, veterans, and the elderly. A ripple of murmurs sweeps the room. Karen's grip tightens on her teacup. She opens her mouth, but I don't give her the chance. I turn the next page, revealing Section 4, Clause 8 of the HOA bylaws. Here's the rule you broke when you ordered my garden destroyed without a vote. I glance up, letting my words sink in. Which means you, Karen, are in direct violation of HOA policies. The air in the room shifts for the first time. People are listening. Karen's lips press into a thin line, but she keeps up the act. That's a gross misinterpretation of our policies. The HOA board approved the decision. I tilt my head. That's strange. Because I spoke to 3 board members. I gesture toward the crowd. And they all say you made that call alone. A murmur of shock spreads through the room. Karen's mask cracks, just for a second, before she forces a laugh. This is ridiculous, she scoffs. You're twisting things to play the victim. There it is, the shift from polite condescension to outright dismissal. I knew it was coming, and I came prepared. I pull out my phone and press play. Karen's voice fills the room, clear, sharp, undeniable. We need to get rid of that house. It brings down property values. And people like that, well, they don't belong in Oak Ridge Estates. The room falls dead silent. Karen's face drains of color. I let the recording play a little longer, just enough to capture the unmistakable sneer in her voice, before pausing it. Then I turn the phone face up on the table. That was recorded 3 days ago, I say, my voice steady. Right before you had my garden destroyed. A stunned silence stretches across the room. Then, finally, someone speaks. This is real, a neighbor murmurs. I nod. Every word. Eyes shift to Karen. Her hands shake slightly as she stands. This is a setup, you doctored that. I arch a brow. Go ahead. Deny it. I lean forward, dropping my voice just enough to make her squirm. Because I have the unedited version backed up. I wonder what would happen if I sent this to the county housing authority. Or the local news. The color returns to Karen's face, but this time, it's burning red. She turns to the board, desperate. You know me. You know I've only done what's best for this community. No one speaks, even her most loyal allies hesitate. They all know, and now, they can't ignore it. I lean back in my chair, letting the silence stretch. Karen's reign is over, she just doesn't know it yet.